product and you would like to accelerate the work that you're doing and you're looking for your first pre-seed check and you'd like 3 months of coaching and mentorship and assistance with an incredible network and incredible partners, introductions to investors, and also getting to do 2 years worth of startup work in 3 months, then definitely talk to me about joining Techstars.
Oh,
Well,
sorry.
that's fun. I did that on purpose.
Sorry.
Go ahead and feel free to seek me out, or you can also go to our Techstars San Diego homepage to apply and learn more. And thank you all so very much.
All right, and thanks for your flexibility with us. You know, every time we do a First Mondays, it's in a different venue. We have to show up, we have to break it down, we have to get ready. Last month, or 2 months ago, it was in Tijuana. So, you know, thank you for your patience with us as we struggle through a little bit of technical stuff here. But, all right, so I want to introduce another person, the interim executive director, Ms. Lisa Barnhouse.
Thanks everyone for coming out tonight. We really appreciate your patience. We have a secret camera, see who's really being the most patient in that crazy line. No, we really appreciate it. Mark your calendars. The next First Monday, which will have a much more rapid check-in, is on Monday, August 7th. And we've got also our dates for our annual conference, Startup Week, and that's October 23rd to 27th. You heard it here first. Tickets go on sale June 14th. And we have a new program this year that involves individual membership and corporate membership, and that will not only support the organization and all the good work it does, but it will include a pass to Startup Week. You can learn all about it after June 14th, not before. But hope you have a great time. Thank you to the speakers. And we appreciate your time. We couldn't be here without the volunteers and the support. Thank you, Cheryl, volunteer board member. Curling, shout out.
If you are a board member, raise your hand. These board members can help you get a beer, help your startup,
Make a friend. And our chair, Kathy Pritchard, is here. She's SDSU's at Launchpad, executive director. She's wonderful. So it's very humbling. I've been here 2 months. The board is an incredibly smart, kind group, and I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to meet more of the community tonight. Sorry I was fast at the check-in. I'd be happy to meet you after. If you're going to have a conversation, please do it outside, because we're going to try to keep it nice and quiet in here for the speaking of the panel. And we're getting ready to go. So without further ado, enjoy the program.
and truly, there are bar stools all back there if you don't want to stand. There's outdoor seating, we have speakers outside, so you should be able to hear what's going on. We are also live streaming on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram right now. So if you
pandemic, we used that technology to actually start the power spaces. So during the pandemic, a lot of biotechs needed to figure out how to keep scientists in the lab and everyone else collaborate with them. But you can't really work from home when you got
Got your attention now, did I?
So how do you do that? We invented remote control lab management. Just gonna take this.
It's me, I'm the problem. It's me.
So during the pandemic, we had to figure out how to help scientists stay in the lab and help work on some of those cures for us. So we invented remote controlled labs. We started using and integrating with our software IoT sensors, camera security systems, computer vision, all the things that allowed us to keep people in the lab safely. And that turned into HomeLab, powered by LabFellows. So HomeLab is our flexible lab and office space solution. We've got several locations. Obviously, here in our Torrey Pines one, we also have one UCSD. So in addition to running HomeLab, I'm also the executive director of UCSD's Biotech Accelerator. So those of you trying to do startups and you're not B2B or B2C on the technology side, come check us out. We have an accelerator fund. We do invest in early stage companies over there at UCSD. What else should I share? I think that's it for now.
Yeah, well, you're a renaissance man, for sure, bringing together tech and life science in one building and giving them beer. Thank you, Julio.
All right, and so now we have Andy White, Startup Operations at Keshif Ventures. Andy, tell them all about you.
All about us. We're an early stage seed fund located here in San Diego. We focus on data science centric companies. A few of the teams that we've invested in that you may have heard of or will soon, one of which is LabFellows. Who here's heard of LabFellows? Also, personal AI, gravity-ai.com, uai.com. You kind of get the idea. Those are the ones that are most meaningful to the conversation we'll be having today. But many others. We've invested in 110 teams over the past 11 years. And we're still looking for great companies here in our area.
Excellent, thank you, Andy. Okay, and then best for last, is that what we're doing here, Vincent? I mean, okay. All right, Vincent Paquet, Chief Product Officer, Dialpad. Ring, ring.
Yes, so hi everyone, I'm Vincent Paquet, the CPO of Dialpad. We're a cloud communication company. So we do phone system, contact center, sales center for businesses, all AI powered. We're about 1,000 people, $200 million in revenue, and we have customers all around the world, from SMBs to very large multinational. I am not from New Jersey, although my accent is.
Get out of here.
I know it's hard to believe. My background, I actually co-founded a company called Grand Central that was acquired by Google, and that became a service known as Google Voice. Think of it as your first personal communication device, and at some point we realized there was a very, very strong opportunity to do the same for businesses, and that's what Dialpad is.
Yeah, and that's great. I think this is a great point to start this conversation, Vincent, because you've run Dialpad as a Chief Product Officer for 10 years, 12 years now?
They're going on.
Okay, oh, let's see, right in the middle, there you go, I can do it. So you obviously, in the early days, you were not powering AI, you weren't using AI modalities, I'm assuming. I think anyone in the tech industry has been hearing AI for the last decade, but it's the consuming public that's been really obsessed with it recently. Can you talk about the journey that you've had with AI, and really, in the last couple, I've never seen more impactful newsletters coming from your company about exactly what your customers are experiencing. So I'd love to hear more about that. I'm sure this beautiful audience would too. How'd you integrate all that?
Yeah, so I've been in telecom for about 20 years, actually. Interestingly enough, my first startup got acquired by Yahoo. We were doing PC phone, which was basically the ability to call any phone number, any phone from a computer, which was pretty innovative at the time. And it's always been about making things easier, communication easier. Because I think in general, it's not. If you recall, like 20 years ago, the most common tool for communication was a phone, a desk phone, and it wasn't very easy to use. Like I remember, like the joke I used to use is, we got on the call with Deutsche Telekom, and the guy said, "Hey, we're going to transfer you if we lose you 1.9." I'm like, "Those are the people who actually built the phone, and they still don't use it." Right? So this was a good proof that it wasn't simple. It was built by engineers for engineers, and no one could really use a phone system. So we were like, okay, we've got to make this simple. And even back then, we had some ideas on how to do this for businesses, but we started on the consumer side. So as I mentioned, with Brand Central and Google Voice. But you know, like the cool thing about a business phone system is you actually have paying customers. Because Google Voice is a freemium service, so it's great. But you know, when you give something for free and you collect revenue elsewhere, there's always some side of you who said it'd be cool to have like people willing to pay for my service. And so Dialpad is that. So we started like very simply to do a business version of Google Voice. And 5 years ago, we met with this company called TalkIQ, founded by actually the CEO was an ex-Googler, which we happen to know. And he did a demo of a real-time transcription service that was just mind-blowing. And we left the meeting thinking, okay, we have to have that.
This is 5 years ago.
5 years. 5 years. And if you're not familiar with transcription, it's actually really, really difficult. When we were at Google, actually, we pioneered the first voicemail transcription. And if you recall before that, voicemail is something you had to listen to. It was really annoying. And then, like now, I think everyone hopefully has a voicemail system that can read their own voicemail, so they don't have to listen to it. And when we met with TalkIQ, this was the exact same thing for phone calls. And this was the ability to transcribe a call in real time and have a record of it. Because if you think about it, like every communication you have in your business, whether it's email, text, or everything, you can easily find it and search it. But phone calls were this silo that wasn't connected to anything else, and it's a black box where you think about all the meetings you have, where half of the meeting is rehearsing things you've already talked about because no one recalled what was agreed upon, right? So there was a real need to be able to say, hey, it'd be cool if I could have this. And TalkIQ did that in real time. So we've been transcribing phone calls for 5 years now, and it's an amazing, it's one of those things you just don't go back without and live without, because once you do, not only can you find stuff you've discussed, it's very easy to search a discussion you had with Bob about this topic and find it. But most importantly, it allows you to set alerts. So you can easily, if I want to know, I'm a product guy, we used to launch product, I wanted to know how they did. I would call our customer support team and say, hey, what's the feedback you get from customers? And the feedback that get was very random, people recall the last 2 days of a communication and that was it. Whereas now I can literally go into our system, do a keyword search on the feature we just launched, and see literally every conversation where it's ever been said, whether it's been said by the agent, by the customer, what people are saying. It's super, super powerful.
Customer base out a little bit. I mean, obviously,
I think it
suppose it depends on the company.
It's one of those things, let's be honest, now you probably have more chance of being recorded on TikTok just walking down the street. Talking over the phone, right? So, at this stage, almost everything you do is now recorded in some way.
Yeah.
And as long as it's for business, by the way, whenever you call a customer support line, pretty much expect this to be the case. Very often, you wish you had that transcription for yourself because you could actually tell the company what they told you back then. But I think it's something that is still new in a way that people get used to it.
So the governance, and this is one thing that was very intentional on the team about this conversation tonight. We were not going to talk about all the things that we know governance has to come. I don't think this panel is here to solve governance. We're not here to solve privacy issues. We're not here to, combat the oncoming singularity or robots take over and kill us. We're not here for that tonight. That's the next show. We are here really to talk to folks like Vincent and Andy and Julio and Ellie to really say, what's the opportunity? Because I believe, as a former journalist myself, much of the headlines that we're reading are clickbait. They are designed to scare you. And I think it's crap. And I think the reason that we're here tonight is to really say, what is that journey of integration of AI? What are those opportunities where, whether you're in maritime or you are in retail, I believe that there's some application, some order of efficiency to be had in AI, which cues us up for the next question, which is targeted to you, Andy. So obviously VC funding is at an all-time high. I think I read today that Silicon Valley now is coming back to life as a result of the last couple of months and the onslaught of AI being the buzzword. Can you talk about what you're experiencing here? And then I'd love for you to unpack that and talk about what does that mean for San Diego and for people in this room that are trying to innovate what you're seeing trend-wise.
So yeah, one of the big things that's different this time in the investment cycle bubble is that investors didn't wait to run out of money before we had the bubble burst. There's a lot of dry powder sitting on the sidelines. And of course, we've had our ebb and flow since early 2020, but that, that money is still there. A lot of it's parked. There are a lot of funds that are out there raising right now. So it's really important if you're going out for fundraising to really get a good feel for where in the life cycle each fund is at. And there are obviously some hot areas where things are flowing, and AI is it right now. We've been focused on data science centric, which now the subtopic is AI, but that could be AR, VR, big data, ML, a lot of different terms that encompass that. And part of our focus on that, being in San Diego, is that we felt it is one of the big unifying factors in our community. Anyone from the outside looking in, they typically know biotech life science. They may know Qualcomm, or they might think Qualcomm is an Eastern European company, like I did until I moved here. But, and then you may get tourism, military, on down the line. And then once you get to tech, it's kind of everywhere. There's lots of little things happening in tech. We have a lot of big tech that now have offices here that they don't really talk about. Even if you're standing in front of it, you may not know unless you really look hard for the sign. Like Amazon, Facebook, Google, Fitbit, you name it, they're here, but not in the spotlight yet. And it's all because of this infrastructure we have in place. So looking at all those industries, every single one of them works with data. Every single piece of data ends up as a 1 and a 0 inside of a computer. And many companies are sitting on top of a ton of it that they don't know what to do with. And so that's really the big part of the renaissance that we're seeing now, is that I think the most exciting thing for me in AI is it gives non-technical people the ability to express their creativity. And so you look at the possibility for someone who is illiterate. I cannot read your language. I now have the ability to write a book. And I can write that book in 200 different languages. That's hugely empowering, and it's going to affect every aspect of creativity, images, video, you name it. And so in every one of those instances, the prerequisite for that was go learn Photoshop or learn your video editor. We all become video editors, and TikTok's a great example of what can happen when you put the power in the device that's in your hand and then make the editing part of that very simple. And in many cases, it's choreographed, right? Do this first, hit the beat, go on to the next thing. It's lowering that bar, and AI lowers that even more.
So a little bit further. So the big opportunity, there's a lot of opportunity, right? From infrastructure to how it's being served in cloud and the wireless. But what is the biggest opportunity? Is it in the app development space, serving the range of business models? Or do you see more opportunity for creatives? Like, what would be the leading that you see?
So one kind of general topic to keep in mind, I heard a podcast that had the Microsoft CTO on, Kevin Scott, I think. And his advice was, if you're in a startup right now, be focused on the thing that used to be impossible, but is really hard right now. Because what we're seeing with the first wave of any technology is people flock to the thing that was impossible, but is now really easy. So everyone goes to the really easy. And that's what we're seeing in content creation. It's important, it's going to be life-changing and change the society we live in, but it's the easy thing right now. And so what I'm most interested in is how do we then adapt when every person can create even more content?
More spam, it's awesome.
And so what is that?
Yeah, and so it could be a more perfect TIA to you, Julio. I mean, the hardest problems in life sciences, right? Curing cancer. We talked the other day about someone that now has the ability to walk because of neural implant using AI, now they're walking. That's, I imagine, the type of things to talk about. These are the most complex problems we deal with as humanity, cancer. Anyway, Julio, you get my point. Talk about those big problems.
Yeah.
And the answers.
It'll take us some time.
That's okay.
That's what everyone in this room is here to help out with. I think to talk about the opportunities, just to give a little bit of a history of some of those who aren't so familiar with what tech looks like in life science. I'm more of a biotech guy. So about 2012, 2013 in science, we started getting these reports talking about reproducibility results. Amgen, one of the large pharma companies, published one that said only 30% of the groundbreaking cancer research publications were actually reproducible. And so that set off a lot of alarms in industry to think through, okay, we're doing these experiments, are we really just seeing evidence of something that happens at N of 1? Or can we actually reproduce this if someone in another lab across the country with the same ingredients were able to also make that happen? And so from about 2012 to about 2018, we were really focused on that reproducibility element. And so you started seeing more attention to lab automation. So we started to hook up the machines and try to write protocols that could be repeated and automate that. And so we started to build out this equipment and these little these little cells where we can automate a lot of the throughput and get to the data. And so for probably about the last 4 or 5 years, we've been thinking about things like just basic master data management, right? We've got these data lakes and how do we deal with that? And at the same time, on the life science side, we are still pioneering new technologies. So a couple of real key ones I'm sure you're all familiar with, like CRISPR came out. These technologies, it's the copy and paste of genes, starting to evolve us into less of a craft and more to an engineering approach to how we do science. And so with AI and what we're seeing right now is kind of, okay, now we're starting to automate things, now we're starting to get data. We're now seeing it go from just the large pharma companies to these smaller ones having these tools and technologies to start to actually break through and disrupt these pretty deep tech niches. And so some of the breakthroughs you're seeing with Neuralink, right? So you guys know what Elon Musk is up to, right? He's teaching monkeys how to play Pong. And we all joke and laugh, but the FDA has given him the license to now do the first human clinical trials on a neural implant. So literally a first human machine interface is happening right now, and the FDA has approved it. So it's pretty amazing. There's a big universe out there. Taking a drug from lab to market has been a 10-year, billion-dollar endeavor, and it's focused over the last 5-10 years around the in vitro studies. You guys think about the mad scientists in the lab doing the beaker stuff. We call that in vitro. We're doing it in the lab, and over the last 10 years, it was more marrying that with computational modeling systems and silico modeling. So here locally, you got Dassault, Biovia, which was a big one, developing the modeling and simulations technologies. You saw now what's going on with some of that AI and kind of what Andy's talking about is some disruption on some of those basic problems they were trying to figure out, like what's the structure of HIV? It didn't take a company of 100 scientists to figure that out. It actually took a couple of computer gamers because someone developed an algorithm that allowed you to kind of play with it and figure out what's the structure of HIV and how do you dock that protein. And that's how the structure of HIV was solved, is a gamification of some of these hard three-dimensional problems. So a lot of the focus has been on the kind of early stage discovery development side. And what we're seeing right now is a focus on clinical trials and manufacturing. Right now, those are two of the biggest things I think AI has the potential to disrupt. On the clinical side, it literally takes $100,000 a patient for a clinical trial to be enrolled and go through it, right? So you start looking at the costs. And a lot of folks have looked at different angles of clinical trials, right? In clinical trials, they've got different phases, not to go in it, but basically you put a drug in a healthy human, just to get some of the dosing and making sure there's no side effects, and you put it into sick patients at a very high generalized approach. And what you're seeing right now is some opportunities where it's not about solving the problem, it's not about figuring out the complicated array of reactions. Like we all went through COVID, right? That was a great, massively parallel experiment where we all found out what happens when you do this really fast, and all the different things we all learned about, right? These things can fragment in your body. You can have all these unexpected outcomes. Well, in clinical trials, one of the companies I love going and doing some work right now is Unlearn AI. Great name for an AI. And what they're focused on is actually creating a digital twin of a healthy patient. And so if you think about that, it costs $100,000 a patient, and every clinical trial has to do these placebo experiments. Again, not the complexity of the different reactions that a chemical drug can do in the body, but just simply, hey, if I gave this placebo, this sugar pill, to a healthy human, what's the outcome? And just by limiting placebo trials, they're able to make a dent in the industry, right? If you don't have to do placebo trials, you save $100,000 a patient, right? And most of the $1 billion that goes to drugs is spent in the clinical trials. So you can not only save money now, but you can also think about not having to do placebo trials. You can actually get the drug to market even faster, right? Instead of 10 to 20 years, now we're talking maybe 6 to 10 years, right?
Yeah, and Julio, I did related to that. I had heard, I forget where I read this, but that this advancement at this pace is that the expected human life expectancy is really going to be 100. Right? If you could make it, and I actually think that was in Elon Musk's work, you could make it to 2030, that the technological advances in life sciences and biotech would enable us to live to 100. That's a lot of diapers.
That is, I mean, it's just another opportunity for biotechnology, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Maybe AI can fix that. I don't know. You know, I'm optimistic AI can fix lots of stuff. But on to other shitty situations. The unemployment market, Ellie. Oh my goodness, it's such a mess. But we have been, reinvigorated by AI, and there's this major disruption. So there's a question in here, but I'm gonna give a little prelude first, right? 80 billion jobs will be lost due to AI. 90 billion jobs will be replaced due to AI.
What planet is she on?
What? Hello? What?
80 billion?
Billion. Yes.
How
So-
many planets is that cover?
I didn't hear you, but I'm sure it's funny. Let's talk about it over here. Okay, back to the network. So the net, there's going to be more jobs on the outside, but there's going to be a lot of turbulence in the inside. As I said earlier, the reason for this coming together is really how do you survive this difficult time? What are the things that folks could do to ready themselves for this inevitable transition? I know there's a lot of folks here that are already in transition because of this great innovation. What's the keys to success to survive this turbulence?
All right, I promise not to be all doomsday. So there are a lot of layoffs. We're seeing that across the board. We read the headlines. Our friends tell us about it. It's all over LinkedIn. That said, there's another way to look at it, and I think Cheryl and I read a similar article. How Silicon Valley was completely in the crapper, and now it's coming back up because of AI. There are jobs out there. I'm in the business. I hear it every day. There are a lot of jobs being left, but there are new jobs being created. There is a high demand for really good talent and really specific skill sets. So it goes beyond the resume. It goes beyond what's on your CV and how you can really cater to what that company's looking for or what you can really offer. And this goes across industries. I mean, I can work across any industry given skill set, given EQ, given my ability to evaluate people, the team I work with. I focus mostly on consumer retail and goods, a lot of VC and private equity. I love that space, and it's actually growing. Social impact, anytime, I think, especially after COVID, to me, it's always been really special when you can do something that is, you're making a difference, you're helping others. but anything social impact correlated is terrific. And then healthcare and life science. More people care about their health now. There's more transparency. You heard the news over here. So those are areas I focus on most. And I get everything from, we do board work as well. We need board seats. We need more diversity. And so what can you be doing is really make a couple things. One, put yourself out there and make yourself stand out. Like Cheryl, we have a lot of similarities. I'm also a journalist. I write for Entrepreneur. I write on all things health and wellness is my complete spiel. I live it, I breathe it, whether it's nutrition, whether it's training, whether it's just how to be a better human being, how to feel better. And so I write about that, but I write a lot about jobs and the job market, branding, company culture, and I recently wrote a piece about how to level up your LinkedIn game. So put yourself out there, make sure your LinkedIn is updated, and everything from your profile shot to your background shot. I told a buddy of mine who's actually here in San Diego, I asked him, I said, tell me about yourself. And he started telling me about his work, what he does. He's like, I'd love to serve. And I'm not saying everyone do this right now, but I said, you should go on your LinkedIn profile and write surfer. It was the very first word he did right after his job description. And he told me the next day, people were commenting. So you think about if you're being interviewed and you're in a stack, I have resumes fly by my desk all day, and you're in a stack of 50, 100, 500 resumes, someone can say, that Bob, that surfer dude, he stood out. Obviously, lead with the results.
AI don't serve.
AI.
I don't serve, right?
If you're being interviewed, don't jump into ChatGPT and type in the interview questions. But opportunities are out there. For more of an AI perspective, there are more jobs being created by AI, and the jobs you will see there, I'm sure you've heard as an AI, a prompter for AI.
Like a prompt engineer, and I think
Like a prompt engineer.
Ellie, I was thinking too, is like this would be a great way to engage this panel because everyone on this panel is involved in some measure of interviewing, hiring or letting folks go, I imagine. And I don't want to get into specifics and details, but in general, what are the jobs that you're seeing less of? There's a lot of obvious ones, right? I think there's the thing that is most, disturbing is it's the knowledge workers, doctors, lawyers, the industries I really never thought would get to an automated level. Can any of you, learning platform on those jobs?
I think one thing, just because you brought it up and it's top of mind, you mentioned doctors and lawyers. I think it applies to medical. It applies to, you can't just start trading stocks because AI. There's a lot of regulation there. So you think about it with medicine. You think about there were a couple law firms that brought in AI right away. And there are errors there. It's really easy to make a mistake. And that's legal. That's an agreement. So I think it's important to know that. But all right, how can I insert myself and have a job here is to train that AI. And 10 minutes ago, a silly example, but it's brilliant, is where's Ulf?
Oh, yeah, there he is.
Yeah. So Ulf, right there. About a week ago, or maybe 5 days ago, he typed in how many eyes are in artificial intelligence, and it said 1. Or couldn't answer it.
Completely wrong answer.
Well, tonight the chatbot actually got the response correct. So he said you trained it.
Vincent actually proposed that instead of doing a panel that I just interviewed GPT, but aren't you glad we didn't do that, Vincent?
Sure. We're doing very interesting.
But no, that's actually very insightful. Oh, and I think it was the OpenAI platform now offers a free course on how to be a prompt engineer. Absolutely free. So, Andy, you'd like to comment there?
We have like 20 minutes left.
Okay, I was just talking about the job replacement side. I was just over at the Honolulu Data Science Institute 5-year anniversary, another way that San Diego is set apart. And Dr. Eric Topol did a keynote there One, it's the first time I've ever seen a keynote where he referenced 4 different articles or research papers that had come out in the past week. That's how fast things are changing. Talking about the job stuff in medical field is, does anyone know the average amount of time a doctor is with a patient when you go in for an appointment?
5 minutes.
I heard it out there, 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
So if artificial intelligence can help to give the doctor back a couple hours a day so that they could spend 10, 15, 20 minutes, just right there, what level of care would you be able to get in a situation that is just, again, impossible right now? We've got some tools to make aspects of it really easy, but we also have some industries and incumbent players that are probably going to make it really hard. So solving that problem so that we can actually get back to the point where humans can be humans and interact with other humans and focus on the things that we're the best at, then that's where the huge opportunity comes from this. AI can, there's things it can do, there's things that it can't do, but there's certainly opportunities where it can just truly augment the situation and allow us to be ourselves in a way that we have not had the opportunity to do in a really long time.
You want to comment on that?
No, I agree that in general, first I'm an optimist at heart, and I think like technology over time pushes a value creation. And if you think about it, like one way to look at what percentage of your job could be replaced by AI, but another way to look at it is like as a productivity multiplier, is how much better can you do your job thanks to it. And like going back to your lawyer example, like I'm sure as a lawyer, and I'm not even a lawyer, but the number of red lines I've done on contracts over my life, like I guarantee you no lawyer enjoys doing it, right? And 90% of the issue you go over when you redline a contract, they're always the same, they always come back, right? So if AI can help you go through that and not have to do it yourself, like I'm pretty sure no one's going to complain, and then you can focus on the more interesting part of your job. So, like, I really think of it as a way to get a lot, to make the job a lot more interesting.
Allow the good ideas to come out, the hard ideas, to get by the hard ideas. So we started a little late, but I do want to end on time and respect your time, which means we have about 5 minutes left on this panel. And so what I'd like to hear from each of you is your unique thoughts about what that opportunity is. And it doesn't have to be related to your field, but it just in general, what is that number one thing that you want the startups in this room or in the ecosystem to know, that you can impart that knowledge? And so, Vincent, can we start with you?
So, going back to the knowledge, like I think the one thing AI allows you to do today is make sense of a massive amount of data. So like I always love to hear the example of the medical field, and then after that I feel very ashamed because I'm just operating a telecom
You're
business.
just recording your conversations.
But think of like we've had big data a few years ago, and if you think about the access to information, like the logical step is you start with no information. That's the first step. Then you find information and you get to a point where you have too much of it and it's hard to make sense of it. Find, what's the noise, what's the signal. What AI allows you is get insights and figure out what the data means for you, right? Like it's phenomenal because it can literally look at a massive amount of data and tell you what you should know about it, which will take you for like you don't know about genome, but it works the same in every business. I'll give you one example, very selfishly on Dialpad, but we have this product that does, what CSAT is? It's customer satisfaction, right? After any contact center asks customers what they thought was the interaction after, either a chat or an email or phone call. On phone calls, I'm sure you've all experienced this, it's really horrible for the customer. You get, can you stay on the phone at the end of this call for a quick survey? Almost no one does that, about 2% uptake. And then the result, like the few people who do actually complain, the people who have something that they're not happy with, they're like, oh yes, I'll stay on the phone, right? And so at the end of the day, you have skewed data on a super small subset of your call. I think 2%, right? It's like trying to figure out the size of an iceberg by looking at the complex of the one, right? Impossible. AI allows you to, we do today what's called AI CSAT, where we can track, we can give you a composite CSAT on 100% of your code. 100%. Like any connected code will tell you how well it goes. Think of it like your contact center, you want to know how your customer think about your product. It's amazingly powerful. And I think like this is the kind of thing that the ability to look at large amount of data gives you. And I think it works for every business. Literally, like if you think about the data you have access to or you'd love to have access to, now you can get sense of it. So really powerful.
Well said.
Kind of bigger picture type of thing, and this is something that we felt data science as a whole is going to be a part of this happening, and now with generative AI and complementary technologies, we see a better opportunity for it. The current big tech companies are based on this unwritten rule or notion that if you collect data and store it, then you own it. So what is Reddit really made of? What is Facebook really made of? What is Google really made of? It's other people's information and data. And so in this world where we're going to start flooding each of those platforms with an immense amount of data, their value is going to go way down. We're going to have to then react. I don't have the time to go out and consume more data. Now, I may want higher quality or a different set, but the days of clicking on a bunch of links and going to someone else's site and reading that are probably over. And so what happens next? What does that next version of our communication infrastructure look like when the advertising model is dead because advertisers aren't going to pay to have your bot go to someone else's website and collect content in case you ask it a question later on in the day. So that just kills that business model. And then can we truly create the infrastructure that allows individual entities, whether that's a person or a company, keep and control their own data, and then allow that to be used for certain resources, whether that's your medical or a research project or even advertising. I'm fine with using that in certain situations. So that's the piece that we're really focused on when we see the biggest opportunity is you have to understand that right now, the people focus on the easy things. Many of those business models are predicated on the rest of the industry staying the same. They're taking advantage of an opportunity that they're going to destroy. So what happens next? How does that industry then react, or we react as users? And then what does that world look like that we then live in? Those are the real opportunities that we have to go after the hard things. And I don't expect anyone to have a deep answer for it yet, but an understanding that that's really what we're working towards. And it's not just about creating more content so we can get it indexed by Google. I don't think that's going to be the goal for too terribly much longer. There will be a transition. I'm not saying they're going away tomorrow, but it's changing rapidly.
Yeah, a lot of changes we can't even foresee right now. One of the things I'm most excited about is, you guys remember, like 20 years ago, when we all suddenly got cameras on our phones? And then we had that one cousin who took all the family pictures from there on. And, they didn't have film, but suddenly they were the ones talking about saturation and colors and the golden hour. And suddenly, you didn't have to go find a wedding photographer, right? Someone in the family was doing it for you. And I think really optimistically about that's where AI is really going, where suddenly somebody who doesn't have that technical background, didn't do computer science over at UCSD or Harvard or Stanford, suddenly can now program, right?
English is the new coding language, right?
Yeah, AI and these new language learning models are like the Rosetta Stone, unlocking every industry to everybody. And so that's the thing I'm most excited about, is what happens when you break down the technical barriers and you let creative minds suddenly go attack all these different industries. And for me in biotech, that means people can now speak a language that might as well have been Hebrew or Latin in terms of science. And now you can go apply your knowledge and your insights and different things you learned in your industry now to tackling things like discovering new drugs or even building simple tools. Guys in biotech, we don't have a Slack or a Trello. Someone invented it.
Yeah, so it's an exciting time. I mean, at the end of the day, the universal kind of trend is it's an exciting time. And Ellie, would love, you close us out. What can we look forward to? Where are the opportunities?
So the opportunities really are, AI technology is amazing. I think we talk about the camera. I mean, do you remember when you could just go on Amazon and say, I need this? Remember you were hungry and you're like, DoorDash? I mean, that's convenience. So any little job, as you know, that can level us up and all the little minutia, all the, those are the jobs that are gonna go away. Like the new Photoshop AI is awesome. As someone that writes a lot and puts out a lot of content, I write my own words, I put my own feeling into it, but it's kind of nice to just ask a few questions and not stare at a blank screen. An insight from my end is really what will never go away, and I'm always led with this, is technology is always evolving and it's phenomenal, but nothing. Well, we are human beings and nothing will ever replace the look in the eye, the handshake, the cup of coffee together, the let's hold up a drink together and say, hell yeah, we did this. Fundraising, AI is not going to do that for you. It's going to be a tool. Strategy, AI is not going to do it for you. It's going to be your thoughts, your beliefs, your teamwork, your brain. That's going to happen. Big deals, big acquisitions, when you land a great job, all of that, that's not AI's job, and AI is not going to accomplish that. Again, it will be a tool, but ultimately it's what we do as human beings. It's face-to-face, it's the conversations we have.
Hey, it's Startup San Diego, if you ask me, right?
Everyone's getting to know, I want to know about, your goals, your passions, your kids, your dogs, whatever it is. I mean, that is what, for me, it qualifies, are you the best candidate for this role? Who are you as a human being? The soft skills, the EQ. But keep that in mind, and I think my, not to say advice, but tips for you is continue to network, build those relationships, and not just reaching out and hit connect, but really get to know people, come to events like this, because we all help each other out, we all can add value, we all can spread sunshine is my personal motto, but continue to network, because those are the people that are going to continue to win, that are going to continue to say, you know what, I just raised $50 million for my new startup, because you're out there with people, you're meeting face to face, and you are building that trust.
And with that, I think Ellie might even network with everyone here, just like the rest of our panelists, right? All right. Just to wrap it up and just say this is the announcements earlier. I don't know if everyone heard. We did announce Startups Week is going to be October 23rd through the 22nd. There will be a press release with details and sponsors and all that coming out. So we want to see you back in October. We want to see you for the next series of First Mondays. Please go have fun and don't work like a robot, or a robot will take your job.